All right, so now we are going to do the last lesson of this unit at 11.6, and this is all about surface area and volume of spheres, but we are not going to do volume today. We're just doing the surface area. So here is the formula. This is the easiest surface area formula because there's only one thing you have to do. Like there's not multiple sides or any of that. There's just one straight formula of a sphere. And that formula is 4 times pi times radius squared. So 4 pi radius squared. Okay, so let's just do one. So find the surface area of the sphere. First, we need to write the formula down, just because you got to get your points. Sorry, I'm struggling. So 4 pi radius squared. So that would be 4 times pi times 7 squared. There's your second point. And you end up getting 196 pi when you put it in the calculator. So you're just putting 4 times 7 squared in the calculator. And then don't forget your label. We are still doing surface area, so it is centimeters squared. Easy, right? Okay. So now this one's a little bit trickier. They're giving you the surface area and now they want you to find the diameter. Okay, let's just write the formula. So the formula for surface area is 4 pi r squared. And now they tell us the surface area is 110.25 pi. Okay, so in order to find the diameter, we have to find the radius first. So we need to get this r by itself, okay? So how would you do that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is get that 4 pi off of there, and since it's 4 pi times radius squared, let's divide by 4 pi, because that would cause the 4's to cancel and the pi's to cancel. Good. So what you do to one side, you must do to the other. So we got to do divided by 4 pi. The pi's cancel there. That's nice. And let's see. I'm going to stick in my calculator 110.25 divided by 4. And you get, it's kind of a gross number, but that's okay. You could write it as a fraction. I'm just going to write it as a decimal. R squared equals 27 since there's only 4 decimal places, I'm just going to write all of them. 4625. Okay, so then what would you do to get the r by itself? Well, you would need to square root it. So I'm going to square root to get that squared off the r. When you do to one side, you must do to the other. So we need to square root that. And so that just gives you r on the left side. And when you square root that long number, you get 5.25. Cool. So the radius is 5.25, but that's not what they wanted. They wanted us to find the diameter. So then the diameter would be 5.25 times 2, right? Because radius is half of the diameter. So then the diameter would equal 10.5. And then let's talk about the label. What would be an appropriate label for diameter? Well, since this is talking about square feet, diameter is one-dimensional, it's just a line, so it's just going to be feet. Cool. Let's do another one. Okay, so now we have a composite solid, which is kind of like when we had those composite two-dimensional shapes and we had to find the area and piece them together. Same thing. All right, what do you see? Well, I see, we're doing surface area, so I see a cylinder and a half of a sphere, but on that cylinder I have to be careful because this piece of the cylinder, that circle, is not on the surface, so I do not want to count that. So for the cylinder portion, and I'll write it out so maybe it'll make a little bit more sense. So for the cylinder portion, I have that right side circle. So I have one circle. Let's write that a little bit bigger. One circle, and then you still have your rectangle. But we're not going to count that circle that I highlighted in red because, again, it's not on the surface. Okay, so then the radius is 5.8. And then the height of the rectangle would be 14. So you remember how to figure out what this part is? It is the circumference. So C equals 2 pi r. So 2 times pi times 5.8 gives you 11.6 pi. And that kind of looks like a time, so I'm going to erase that. So 11.6 pi. That's ugly, but it's fine. Cool. So let's just finish off the cylinder and then we'll worry about the half sphere in a second. Okay, so we've got one circle, so pi r squared. So pi times 5.8 squared. And then they say in the directions to round it to 2 decimal places. So I am going to put the pi in the calculator. So pi times 5.8 squared would give you 2 decimal places would be 105.68. And then for that rectangle, we're doing base times height. So 11.6 pi times 14. So 11.6 pi times 14 gives you 510.19. All right, so now we have a half a sphere. So my suggestion on this half sphere is to find the area of the whole thing, the surface area of the whole thing, and then divide it by half, or divide it in half, divided by 2. So for the whole sphere, we're gonna do that first. And so it's gonna be 4 pi r squared, 4 pi times 5.8 squared. That gives you, let's go 2 decimal places, so it'd be 422.53, or 73, sorry, 422.73. And then don't forget, we need to do that half part. So then we have to multiply it times a half or divide it by 2, however you like to think of it. So that's where I'm getting that half. So do 422.73 divided by 2, and you end up with, we'll round it to 1 decimal place. So that would give you 211.37. Okay, so now I'm ready to do my surface area. So I've got one side, that's 105.68, that right circle, plus the label part of the cylinder, the rectangle, so 510.19, plus our half sphere, which would be 211.37. And then you put it in your calculator and you should get 827.24. And then let's not forget our label, feet squared. Cool. All right, we've got another one here. This one's one of my favorite. You have one like this on your homework and your quiz review or your test review, so I want to make sure you know how to do it. Okay, so when you're doing this, what do you see? I know it looks weird. So looks like we have a cylinder, and this part is what freaks people out. This is actually a half sphere. It's like, think of a ice cream container when they scoop out a big piece of, or a big chunk of ice cream. So it's still on the surface, it's just inverted inside. So that's okay, but it is still touching the surface, so it's still a half sphere. Okay, so we've got this half sphere. We have a cylinder and only one circle on the bottom of the cylinder, because remember this part right here is not being shown, or not on the surface, it's not actually there. It is part of this half sphere, so it does not count. So do not count this circle right here, just the bottom one. So it's very similar to the last one, except in the half sphere, instead of being outside of it, it's inverted inside of it. Kind of cool, but the same process. So we have one circle, okay, with a radius of 3.3. And then we have a rectangle for this cylinder. And then we have a half a sphere. So let's do the circle. So pi r squared. I still think they want us to go to 2 decimal places, so we will do that. So pi times 3.3 squared gives you 34.21. Okay, now we need to do the rectangle. So this has got to be 7. We need to do a little investigating to figure out what that top side is. So got to use that circumference, 2 pi r. So 2 times pi times 3.3 would give you 6.6 pi. Okay, so we got to have 6. So we're going to do the whole thing. So base times height, 6.6 pi times 7. And we're going to round it. So put the pi in your calculator. 145.14. All right, so now we're ready for the half sphere. So we've got our formula, 4 pi r squared. So 4 times pi times 3.3 squared. Let's type it in the calculator. 4 pi 3.3 squared gives you 136.85. But don't forget, you need to take half of it for this part. So divide that by 2 or times it by 1/2, however you like to think of it. And you should get 68.43. All right, let's do the whole surface area. I've got one side that's 34.21, so because remember there's only one circle on the bottom. The top does not have a circle. Plus the 1 of the 145.14s, plus the half sphere, which is 68.43. Okay, so add all those up, and you get 200, why is this not working? Sorry. What the heck? Sorry. 247.78, and we've got inches squared because it's surface area. All right, we're gonna do one more problem. I feel like we can skip, actually that's the exact same problem up above, so we don't have to worry about it. Let's do this problem because you have one like this on your homework. Okay, it looks crazy. It's like an ice cream cone, right? We're finding the surface area of an ice cream cone. What do you see? Well, I see a cone and a half sphere, but which part is not on the surface? And that would be this circle right here is not on the surface, so we do not want to find the area of that. So how we do this is we find the area of the waffle, just the waffle, and then we're gonna do the area of the half sphere. So just like we've been doing, but we gotta do half of the sphere. Cool, so let's do the waffle. So the formula for area of a waffle is pi RL. So we've got pi times our radius is 4.9 times our L. Oh wait, they don't give us our L. No big deal, we get to do your favorite. You thought we were gonna get through a lesson without the Pythagorean theorem. You're wrong. So we gotta find the L, the C. Okay, so let's do it. We've got 4.9 squared plus 12.6 squared equals C squared. So type that in your calculator. Okay, and you get 182.77. All right, and now we need to not forget square root. And so when you do that, C is approximately 13.52. So our L is 13.52. I'm gonna put that here. All right, now let's do my area of my waffle. So we've got pi times 4.9 times 13.52. And that gives me 208.12. Cool. All right, so now we're ready for the half sphere. So the formula for a whole sphere is 4 pi r squared. So 4 times pi times 4.9 squared. So I'll type that on the calculator. 4 pi times 4.9 squared gives me 301.72. And then don't forget we got to do the half. So times 1/2. So that would give me 150.86 is the half sphere. All right, now we're ready to add them. So 208.12 plus 150.86 gives you 358.98, and we must have our label centimeters squared. All right, that is it for spheres. Hope you enjoyed watching. Have a great rest of your day.